component development somewhere, it will be helpful, because basically this is a continuation of that Aura components. Initially Salesforce came out with Visualforce, then they replaced it with Aura components, and now they have come out with the Lightning Web components. Okay. Also, let us see why do we need to use LWC when we have Visualforce pages, Aura components. See, Visualforce pages were earlier the classic interface, custom interface. Now that is being, slowly being phased out, but it's not stopped. Okay, support is not stopped. Then Salesforce introduced Aura components, but now we have LWC. Now, why do we need to do? Why Salesforce is going for LWC? Is better execution. LWC leverages your built-in browser features from the WC standard, so there is less custom code. So this means they runs faster and it is more consistent in how they enforce the security. So then there is much less processing for handling of events. The events had become a little complex. Even if you see the Aura component tutorial, you have seen the events had become more complex, so it becomes much more easier over here. Then you have CSS isolation, script isolation, DOM isolation, and more limited event scope, so better security features. And of course JavaScript ES6 support, which was not available in Aura, which is slowly becoming a standard in web development. It transpiles code to work with IE 11 and other browsers. Alright, so even if there are some, this was not available in Aura, so it makes you can use other browsers also in addition to IE and Chrome. And also you have two-way data binding, which is more consistent. What is data binding? Is basically you create a variable in the UI and you want the controller to access it, and similarly you can create a variable in the controller and you want the UI to access it. So this actually was a problem in Aura, but at times, but this has been resolved completely in LWC. So you can have more developers to coordinate how data moves between components, and also means the data binding will work as expected. Okay. So there were no limitations as we had in Aura. So now there are a couple of, so let us jumpstart into this. So that's as you have seen all my courses, you will have a complete hands-on boot camp, so that in a short possible period of time that you will be able to pick up the skills which is relevant and necessary, also the concepts to start working on your job or on your projects. So let's jumpstart directly into the environment setup. What are the things that you need to work on LWC? The one main thing, let me start right away, is you cannot use developer console as of now. Okay, maybe in future release you will have to use a IDE called as Visual Studio Code. Alright, so first and foremost you need to basically have a Salesforce developer org login, the normal developer org. Then you need to install Visual Studio Code. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to go to, you will have to search up this code.visual studio, and you have to download the Visual Studio, or you can directly go to Windows or whichever is your relevant. Alright, you have to download this Visual Studio Code and you have to run it. Okay, for Windows or for Mac. Once you download the Visual Studio Code, the next thing that we need to do is we need to install the Salesforce extension pack from Salesforce. So let us see what this is. Once Visual Studio is installed, it will start up like this. Let me just show you. So you'll have a Visual Studio Code, okay, not Visual Studio. So Visual Studio Code is a separate IDE from Microsoft. So it will open up a window like this. So what happens here is, these are the various, first thing that you need to do is you need to install an extension pack to work with Salesforce. Okay, so you have to go on the left side, you'll find the various icons here. You need to go for the search for the Salesforce icon and search for Salesforce extensions. Alright, so this one in my case I have already installed it. You have to install it within your Visual Studio Code. Now this is an extension which allows the IDE, it's like a plugin. Okay, so you need to see that this is installed. Now very important. Okay, now when you install this, it may show you sometimes that it is installed and working, but when you work on it, it will not, because you need to have write access. Okay, the user who's going to work on this Visual Studio and got to work on Salesforce extension pack, when you install extension pack, you need to have write access to your drive. So you need to work with your network admin, or you need to have a temporary access to install this. So please be aware of that. Once you do that, next we can start directly to connect. Next we'll see how to connect the Visual Studio to the org. So first and foremost, let me look at my org here. So I have a Logan So let me log in. So it's going to take me to my normal org. So I opened this in Chrome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as the end point for my development. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this login as an endpoint for my development. So how do I set this up is, first thing is I install Visual Studio, then I install Salesforce extension. Once I install extension, I need to do the connecting part. So what I'll do is I'll go over here and create a new folder here, any place, and call it like LWC1. So this is the folder I'm going to use for development. And now in Visual Studio there is no concept of project, there is only a concept of folders. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's clean this all up. Let's close all. So initially it will show you an empty window here. So let's open up the folder we just created. So this is going to be our target folder. Okay, so we're going to store stuff here and select this folder. So once I select this folder, now I can start working on this folder. So the first thing after installing Visual Studio and Salesforce extension is I'm going to go here to my command palette, and then I'm going to say create project. Well, I'll say authorize an org. Alright, first thing I'll say is authorize an org. Alright, I'll say create project with manifest. So I'm going to create a project with manifest. What this does is, when you say create project with manifest, I'll say default. It's going to, and now it will ask me the folder to select a folder. What this does is it will basically create a syncable project with your Salesforce org. So this will contain all the parts of the Salesforce metadata, like application, Aura, all this will be folders in which your metadata will be synced from the server. Okay, so it will automatically create project with manifest. Now once you do this, now you can say authorize an org. Alright, so we'll say authorize an org. So right now you can give any URL that you want. So we are going to use, we are not using any development hub and all. We are not going to complicate things. We are going to see a simple sync of picking and connecting, retrieving and deploying data to a server like we have been using in Eclipse IDE. So here I'm going to select the login.salesforce.com and I'm going to say default again. That's going to be my default org. So now it's going to say run authorize an org. So it will open up a window here, and here you need to choose. So this is going to set up the connectivity. When you connect over here, it's going to just let me just check the password here. So I'm going to basically log into my org. So once this is done, what will happen is Visual Studio will now connect that folder that I have created locally to sync with this org. So anything that I sync from this folder is going to go into this server, and anything which I sync to the folder will come from this org. Okay, so you say the first you create project with manifest, and then you say authorize an org. Okay, so once you do this, it will start running here. It will say running SFDC authorize an org. Basically you need to follow this guide here and it will start working. Okay, so this is the initial setup that you need to do. So this is going to take some time. So basically what is happening over here is we have some errors here. It says that I tried to log in, but there was some error and I logged in again. So what I'll do is I'll cancel this one. So what it says is kill the process running on 111717. So let's see how to do that. So first let's find the netstat port number. So the port number it says is 1717. So let me just, so there isn't any. So 13180 is the process. So now let's kill the process ID here. So we have to enter our process ID 13180. So this is a useful thing anytime that you have any. See, now this one has got what you call this process. This can be used outside Lightning also. If you have any port running on your local host, you can delete it this way. Okay, you can search for it saying netstat and then you can kill the task. So now let's come in back here and let me run the So now let me run the command again. Authorize an org, take the URL, give it a default name. Now it's going to bring up the login, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this login. So now it got connected, and so now we're going to get a success message. So now it says authorize an org ran successfully, so which is great. Okay, so right now my org is synced with this particular org. So now if I need to do any synchronization with this, what I'll do here is I can go over here to my package.xml, as you can see here, and I can get either I can retrieve source or I can deploy source from here. Okay, so what we will do now is we will just try to get the Aura definitions. If there are any Aura definitions, we'll try to get it. So that will need an Aura class and the definition. So we don't need the whole package XML. So what we're going to do here is we don't have any LWC bundles created in this so far. So just as a sample test, what we will do is, and we have not got any classes back. So what we'll do is we'll get the data into the folder and then we can work on it. Maybe we'll just only get the classes. So for that, what you have to do is you'll have to change the package.xml to store only, to sync only that one that you want, right? So only those metadata. So I don't want, so Apex component is fine, page I don't want, test suite I don't want, trigger I don't want. So I'm going to select lightning component bundle, definition bundle, and any static resource. So with this, I'm going to change the package back. So if I need to get only this data, I can get only those. Okay, so I can go over here and say Control A, Control V, and I'll say now I'm going to say retrieve from source. So what it is going to do is it's going to get the Apex class Aura definition bundle and it will start filling up the folder. Now if you go here and see LWC1, see under force app, under main, under default, all these are empty now. Okay, now let's see how to sync this with Visual Studio. So now we are doing the sync. So what all we did, we authorized an org, we created a project with manifest, authorized an org, and then we deployed, and then we have done a retrieve. Now let's see. Now let it run for some time and then it will get the metadata from the server. So this is some initial setup that we need to learn. Yeah, this can be used even outside of LWC for any, if you want to get a trigger, tab, any metadata. If you are migrating from Eclipse IDE to work on Visual Studio, you can try to use this. Okay. So now if you see, it has picked up all the classes. See, it's still running, but it has already bought the Aura components that we have built. Aura or Lightning components, not Lightning Web components. If you look at my other tutorial, you'll know what it is. And now it has also got the classes. Alright. So it has got all the data also from here. So let's go to the folder and see what's happened. See, if you see here, the sync has happened. Now this data, all the classes have come from the server. So similarly, if you make any change, you'll have to deploy to server. Okay, so this shows that these are successfully ran, and what are the data, anything, you can always check it out. Alright, so this will give you the command prompt. This is the output. This is the debug console. In the output, you can see if there is any, what are the things that have been synced. So with this, with this basic sync, what we're going to do is we're going to start our LWC development.